Hello, my name is Particular Pikmin, and this last weekend I worked to become the world record runner for Antz Extreme Racing. A friend of mine had tipped me off to the game, and when I watched the previous record holder, Portugal Rocker, I thought I actually had a pretty good chance of beating his run. So this last Saturday, I went ahead and got the game. Had a nice 3-day weekend, and late night Monday, I swiped that record from Portugal Rocker. Now, I can't claim to be an expert in the inner workings of this game, but I've gotten rather familiar with it, and it's actually kind of in-depth mechanics, and I thought it'd be kind of fun and nice to just share what I learned over these last 72 hours. My sum of best segments sits at about 21 minutes and 30 seconds, so a faster run is definitely within anybody's grasp if you're even remotely curious about running this game. I don't know about for other people, but for me, it would just be a matter of improving on the muscle memory that I have for each run, because that's where you lose most of the time is, running into something that obviously you weren't expecting. So I think we can go ahead and just take a look, because there's actually quite a bit to talk about as we go through. All right. So all that other stuff was kind of scripted, so now you're just going to hear my general ramblings. The very first thing is that this run requires that you show that you're using the GBA BIOS, so there's going to be a couple false starts at the beginning of this video because I have to do a hard reset to show that the BIOS is in use. So I kind of just, I do a couple failed attempts, and then once it gets a little bit too much, I did another hard reset. So in this game, there's quite a few characters that you can pick from. I noticed that the former champion was using Z. Z is his name. And it's mostly just because I believe it has very good handling. I attempted to try to go for just the fastest, which is, I don't know the name, but the biggest guy on the roster who has the worst turning. And it was pretty much undrivable. It just couldn't do it for even like dozens of attempts. So I figured I'd try a more mid-tier character, and it looks like, what's his name? All this time and I still don't. Mandible, I always forget. Mandible was my go-to. I figured like if I get that extra speed in and I just handle the worst traction, I can probably get a pretty good time. So this is the first, oh, and I messed that one up too. I was so ready to get into it. What you're seeing happen over and over again is I either fail to get the boost at the beginning of the race, or I am getting the boost, but for some reason I'm knocking into Z, or whoever that is on the left, and it's not actually giving it to me. This one is the winner. And I'm assuming it's due to the quality of the boost maybe a little bit, because there's kind of 3 speeds that you go at in this game. There's either a slow crawl, moderate, or this absolute like nuts pace where the smoke is coming off the wheels. Obviously, you want to try to maximize that speed as much as you can, but there's going to be a lot of times where the course is just going to kind of shove you in a direction. You can see like whenever there's a turn in the course that I have to go with, the way that the game handles that movement is just kind of by shoving you to either the top right or the top left corner. So it's kind of more of just, you're really working against some sort of like opposite force that is shoving you across the screen. That's a lot what this first race is. Another thing about this first race is there's so many of like these green, I've been calling them shells, these little green shells that I got 58 of. There's certain ones on the course that are highlighted differently. Those are worth 10. You gotta try to get every single one of those. Because by the end of every race that you do, you get to go to this little shop and you get to buy yourself some of the items that you would normally have to pick up during the course. So there's like an interesting money management side to this game as well. God, I've not had a moment to stop talking. You'll notice that I kind of messed up that boost. So I ended up using one of the boosts that I had just picked up along on the first track. That didn't help, so I immediately used that wasp. That kind of is like a bullet bill from Mario Kart. Just drives you to some location further in the distance and drops you off, which you saw it do. It's not forgiving. To really optimize the usage of the Wasp, you kind of have to start remembering where there are good and bad places to use it. Because there's a significant amount of the time where you kind of use it in a panic, and then it drops you off somewhere really shitty, and then all the ants behind you catch up anyway, so it was basically a wasted Wasp. And I think the biggest goal to you doing well in any of the 12 races is you can't be anywhere near the ants in the back. The ants in the back will do everything they possibly can to run you off the road. They zigzag, they appear just randomly at your side. It's an absolute cluster. And it's because it's like the field of view is like 5 inches. If you're around one of them, you're around all 3 of them. And they're just going to guarantee that you cannot keep going in the race. So your main goal is to get away, to get ahead as early and as quickly as possible. This level kind of sucks. I got the boost there. I didn't go for those shells, mostly because I had likely forgot. For me, most of getting good at this game was just the muscle memory. For pretty much like all of junior and senior year, my roommate and I would smoke and we'd play Mario Kart for hours. So we were playing 200cc, stoned, like just absolutely wrecking people who came in for a game. But that was pretty much all just muscle memory. And I can feel it when I pick Mario Kart back up. And it's the same for me with this. Like, most of this was just trying to remember, okay, where do I need to pump the brakes? Where do I need to let go of the accelerator? What straightaways have the most items on this? This, like, little part right here where it lines 4 items up in a row for you. And a lot like Mario Kart, and in fact, even more like Mario Kart, there's a lot of item management in this game. What you're seeing me hold right now is the walnut. That basically makes you impervious to all obstacles. You can run through trees, you can run through enemies, pretty much everything but other racers. And for this level, it's particularly useful because those fat drops that keep going everywhere, that one I just narrowly evaded, that's like hitting a rock. Like, the game will throw you off course. And yeah, the walnut helps with that. There's other items in the game, obviously, that you'll see me use. The one I just used was that Wasp Taxi. Very unforgiving. For a while, I was pretty much primarily only buying the Wasp Taxis, because that's what the previous record holder had in their run. But I started to really get annoyed every time that I would use the Wasp Taxi, and it just dropped me off in, like, bumblefuck nowhere, and everyone's ahead of me anyway. It's a lot more effective to be proactive with it and kind of go a little bit more with the walnut, just so you can avoid even having to try to accelerate very quickly all of a sudden. So the walnut's very useful. But I mean, as much as I'm degrading it, so is the Wasp Taxi. There are certain parts where you'll remember, like, if I use it here, like, I'm good. Like, I can avoid this whole crummy area if I just use the Wasp Taxi. There's a lot of crummy spots across these races. There's plenty of spots where the turns are just so tight, or there's just kind of like random other obstacles that you have to evade. Nice. Getting the Wasp Taxi, like, on the road is very handy. But certainly a good combo to try to always have in your inventory is a walnut, and one of those boost pad ones that you'll notice, like, I'm kind of missing, but that's only in fact, I just did it right now. The boost, and then the walnut, and then you're solid. I'm missing a lot of these upgrades because my inventory can only hold a certain amount. I've never bothered to count until just now, like maybe 10. I guess we'll kind of see on the store. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think there was enough spots for 10. So there's a lot of points where you get kind of jammed up with items that you just don't care about. Mostly the... Sorry, you'll notice that I messed up that that boost, and I know for a fact that the this garden path, when you use the wasp at the very beginning, it drops you off at a very nice point. It's usually useful to have that wasp right at the beginning if it's a course that's good for it. There are some where it'll drop you off guaranteed at a turn every time. But I forgot what I was saying before I pointed that out. I think something about the items. Yeah. So some of the other items, like the Starburst, I guess you would call it, like is an item where you shoot forward some sort of blast that auto targets onto your opponent in front of you. But like I said earlier, if you're not at the front of the pack, then you're kind of already in trouble. It can be useful if you happen to have it and there is somebody in front of you and you can dip them out real quick. But most of the time you're passing up better items in favor for this thing that probably shouldn't even be in your inventory. Should have used that walnut just like a moment sooner. Lose a little speed when you hit little bumps like that. Speaking of bumps, as far as this game goes, it seems like there's kind of generally like 3 kind of bumps you can experience. You either get like a little tap and you just, lose your speed, decelerate a little bit, and you gotta pick it back up. There's other ones, though, where if you're heading it, even depending on the object and I think the speed, it'll just send you in an absolute 180. And you have to do like a ludicrous U-turn to try to get back into position. And oftentimes there's a lot of symmetry with the obstacles. So if you bump into one and then you have to do a big U-turn in the opposite direction, there's a good damn chance you're gonna bump into the thing right next to it too. So having a wasp to just immediately pick you up is really handy. This level of the house is, I'd say, probably one of the easiest ones, at least for me now. I want to say it was easy just even learning it too, because there's a lot of these straightaways where they just have like these general movement obstacles. There's a couple narrow sections up ahead, but for the most part, it's just kind of like a lot of smooth driving. And I think those are great. They're very predictable. But the more important thing with this level is just the sheer number of shells that you're going to pick up. I'm trying to be rather careful to make sure I get as many shells in here as I can, because this is, besides the first area, this is pretty much one of the last areas to get a lot of shells for buying anything that you're going to need. These eggshells they suck. I swear, they're like the one random thing. Even these cockroaches aren't random. But I swear those like eggshells that are dropping from the sky are. If you listen, I just noticed it now, but the squeaking, that like, that's me hitting the brakes. So a lot of the time you're gonna see or hear me using the brakes to just decelerate. Because I mentioned earlier that the game just kind of starts shoving you in a direction when a turn starts coming up. And when you hold the accelerator, it doesn't matter what direction you're facing, you're going to go the opposite direction you want. So there's a lot of points where I have to brake, and just letting go of the accelerator is not enough. We're entering the home stretch for this level. These popcorn on the ground is the last like obstacle, and then we head home. I haven't even talked about like my general strategy for buying things. I ended up having like a really, really lucky set of events and good pickups during the race, and I ended up with a pretty full inventory with 69 shells. So that's nice overall. But generally, if my inventory is kind of more on the emptier side, I try to pack it with maybe like near the end, or sorry, in the beginning, pretty much just if I could buy a hornet's nest, I did. Like, that was just the first thing. I move over one, I buy as much as I can, and then I stop. Then I started being more selective with it. There's some levels where you can get hornet's nests, like, pretty easy, so I might buy, like, one less hornet's nest, or maybe not at all. Near the end, with good results, I started making sure that I always had at least, like, 2 acorn hats, because they're also immensely useful, so it was definitely a trade-up from only having the hornet's nests. And honestly, I guess I figured this out pretty quickly, because at one point I just literally couldn't beat the whole race, no matter how slow I was. I got squished there really bad, and usually when I get squished I panic. There's also health in this game. I didn't mention the health. That big leaf, that ugly leaf at the top of the screen is my health in these games. I was just about to get crushed by that penny, so I used the Hornet's Nest to get the heck out of there. And you can replenish your health with the sap. You either find the sap like any other item, like on the road, or you buy the sap and it replenishes your health. So there's going to be points where you're going to need to buy sap in order to even finish the run, because every collision you have, every time you get squished, every sign you hit, takes some amount of health away. So unless you're doing these like absolutely perfect, you're gonna need some health. So yeah, see, I bought 2 acorns and another Hornet's Nest. Now I just have a pretty solid inventory. If I was good at menu navigation, I'd probably also work in maybe trying to get a speed boost when I think they're going to be useful. Yeah, I didn't get the boost, which speed boost would have been helpful there. But I know that the Wasp's Nest, you know what? With this one you have to drive a little bit forward and then get the Wasp's Nest. So I messed that up. That's one that actually not like perfect to start right off the line with. This level sucks. It took me a really long time to get even remotely good at this one. I don't know what it was. I don't know if like the traction of the grass was throwing me off. I think the main thing is that with those big rocks that are appearing, you can't touch those at all. If you graze against that granite, you're going into a tailspin guaranteed. Watch me bump into one and it not happen on this run. But every time I bump into those, even going at a slow speed, it sends you into a U-turn situation, which sucks. And then all the little rocks that just appear everywhere. I almost didn't even see that one that got me just before the jump. But these apples are really what grinds my gears with this level. I think they're, like a lot of the falling items, semi-random. They're like, because that doesn't happen on every run. Like that apple isn't there, so they are random. And then in combination with these Snell walls and all the rocks and everything else, and the fact that the apples are huge, it just sucks. And I barely evaded that one. Maybe I could have gotten away with it without using that helmet, but thank God I did, because it probably would have sent me in tailspin, and I definitely would have lost that run. So I had to use quite a few items in the forest to keep pace. You're going to notice that, like, yeah, I'm already down to, like, 12 shells. And there aren't too many other levels, like I said, with a lot of easy-to-grab shells. This one does have a few, but I'm actually pretty bad at, like, because the real ones that you want to get are the ones that are, like, highlighted weird. And this one is, there's going to be a split at one point where it's either going to take me down a path with shells and a boost, or I could take the left path and it'll be the other thing. I don't know if that was definitely it, but I don't know if you could see the other one in the moment. But, no, that's the acorn map. See, I don't even know these. I don't even know these maps. I don't know why I'm even bothering. Like, yeah, this is like where the tadpoles come up, but it's like I couldn't even remotely map out what these things are, or what these maps, like, how they actually look. It is all just like, this looks vaguely familiar, and then, like, my fingers just adapt to the situation. Yeah, now here's all these catnip things, so these are gonna show up a bunch. It's not catnip. What are those? Cattails? I forget. Okay, yes. I hate missing that. There's a lot of times where I miss those two. Due to some, like, kind of just push that I wasn't quite adjusted for. Ooh, almost threaded the needle on that one, but I'm gonna Wasp's Nest. I don't want to lose time. And something that does suck about the Wasp's Nest is that if you use it and you're on the edge of the road, it's gonna land you on the edge of the road, which is probably where, like, a sign's gonna be or something like that. But anyway, luckily I was able to get those 20 shells with just, like, those two little special shells, so that's going to give me quite a bit of leg room. I needed more health, I needed more acorns, and these upcoming races, I think the last one included, are not really practicable. What I could have, should have done is like, yeah, set up a save state and have like a load state essentially. But if you're not using an emulator, you can't be bothered to you know, do the easy way. It's not in the part of this game that lets you just do an individual race. This is like the tournament mode where you have to be first place every race for 12 races in a row. But there is an option or a mode to just do a single race of any type, but it's only the first 8 races. So these last 4, you basically only get to practice when you're actually running them. And this is another obviously difficult one. There's a lot of things in the road. Watching it, everything feels like it's coming at you so slow. But, I mean, if you just listen, the amount of times that I have to, like, kind of pump the brake to make a sudden change, it's pretty freaking often. Now, this part sucks. It shouldn't be this hard. I'm convinced that I'm just bad at it. Like, sometimes I do really well in avoiding that stupid thing, and other times I just suck at it. Like I could have just gone all the way to the left. I saw it was on the left. And that time I tried to do it, but I hit that freaking sandwich, so it bumped me. So I panic, and now I just use the acorn, but it's not even there anymore. That was the end of that little challenge, though. So that's just an acorn wasted. Great job. And that's the end. That's the end of that race, I should say. Only had enough money to buy a few acorns. The dump is another one that sucks. There's a couple of really annoying points. The first one is actually really close. It's these rings. I mess up those rings so often. But there's good items in there, so you kind of want to get good at it. But the other thing that sucks, and finally it's happening, is that I've been kind of caught in the hailstorm that is these drivers. And one of them bumps into me one time, and I'm like, I'm not having this. Like, I cannot be dealing with this. I used a wasp in a terrible location, and I'm almost right back to where I was. Despite when you're together with them, they're so bad at driving and so slow. When they're not on your screen, they're rushing. They are absolute speed racers trying to catch up with you. I swear, it just moves them. It removes all obstacles behind you, and it just lets them catch up with you. But there's so many of those like choke points at the beginning of this where even if you're with them, like the only way to go is through those rings or through these, you know, anything. And it's just, they're just constantly all over you if you can't get ahead right at the beginning. And there's so many like boost jumps that just throw you off the course like that one. I actually really like that gum. I don't think I've talked about the gum at all yet. But it's just an item that lets you like kind of throw down several obstacles. So it's, I don't know how well it works really, because yeah, but it's really nice to use at those choke points, so that if anyone is catching up with you, they're definitely gonna get hit. Wow, we're already at the last level. This is the last race. I'm uncomfortable at this point in the run. I see that I'm doing well. I almost never practice this one because it's the last damn race in the entire tournament. I do have a full thing of health, but I have no other items. So I'm desperately trying to avoid these bones, these chicken bones. I don't know why Insectopia has chicken. I guess like just the meat for the ants. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But I'm desperately trying to avoid this mass graveyard. And I've only got so much material to work with. Now, luckily, I was able to get ahead of everybody else right at the beginning, because that's really so crucial at this first point. And I'm just taking it kind of as slow as I possibly can, because the worst thing that can happen is I hit something and end up in a U-turn situation. So even if I'm going pretty slow at quite a few sections of this, I just don't want to crash and get caught up with, because that's going to mess me up more than anything. This spray can is pretty easy to avoid. It's pretty generous between you and the fruit. I hate the bananas. I hit the bananas so often. These dung beetle bugs, they squish you, which really slows you down. Now, I feel like I get really, really lucky with a lot of these crashes on this run, because there have been times where I tap the banana, and it sends me into an absolute whirl. And I barely avoid that last one, only to get hit by one more, and then boom. I'm able to boost into it. I would have been fine even if I couldn't have boosted, but at this moment I realized that I got it. I got world record. Like, I kind of hoped that I had it, because I'm pretty sure if you enter that race like around 2030, by the very beginning, you have a good chance of beating the record. And I had gotten in there, I guess, 22 seconds ahead of schedule at 20:01. So even having to take it pretty darn slow, it worked out. I wanted to see if like hitting a button would speed up the credits like it speeds up other animations in this game, but it didn't, so it just skipped the credits. Sorry to whoever made this game. And then there's that hard reset right at the end, because I was afraid that somehow the reset at the beginning wouldn't count and I'd be out of a record. So yeah, that's Antz Extreme Racing. I don't know if I already said this, but the sum of best segments is it's 2130, at least for me, and I'm not even saying that I could, I have the best individual level records, but that should be based off my general averages. So it's definitely attainable. There were plenty of points where I was just talking about the game and I really wasn't commenting too much on the run, but there were lots of points where I could have done better, like easily within my own capabilities. I could have used an item a bit quicker, or I could have just remembered that I didn't need to use an item, or yada yada yada. So there's a lot of improvement to be made here, and I'll be interested to see if maybe Portugal Rocker says run it back, and he slaps with a new record. Maybe I got one in my back pocket and I've just been coy this entire time. But either way, thank you for checking out this video, this game. Feel free to give it a run. It's pretty easy to pick up. Like once you get a hold of like how the turns work, because it is very much unlike any other racing game I've played. Once you get a hold of that, like it's like anything else. Just practice and you'll get it. I got world record in about 72 hours. I don't even know what it said at the end. I think like 50 total attempts. Now, actually, I shouldn't say that. It wasn't 50 total attempts on the thing, because I only did the time splits once I actually beat the tournament consistently. So maybe like 80, 90, something like that. And quite a few of those were false starts in the first lap. Yeah, don't know how to end this. So thank you, and stay whimsical.